the way I learned to invest was to write down my criteria when I was making a decision. Every time I'd make a decision, I would then think, why am I making that decision? And then I write down the criteria and see how it would have worked in the past. It took me a while to do this because of my experiences. And also, when you're wrestling with positions, particularly a position that goes against you, you're wondering, am I missing something? And then how long do I hold that position? And what do I do? So emotions and intellect and lack of perspective is a problem. So when you have a decision rule that then how it would have worked all through time, now you're just playing that decision rule and it helps.
While we're speaking about currency, how do you view crypto and the world of Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is limited in supply and its perception of money. It is a form of money. It's perceived as money, as a storehold of wealth that is unlikely to be significantly held by central banks and many others because of a number of problems it has. Transactions could all be followed in Bitcoin. One can monitor what the transactions are. Governments can monitor what the transactions are. And governments can interfere with those transactions. Just like we talked about earlier when we talked about, gold is the only asset that you can have that they can't mess with and control. You've got it. Okay. That's not true of Bitcoin. And then there are other issues in Bitcoin, like we talked about the possibility, would somebody make synthetic gold like they would make synthetic diamonds as a risk? Well, in terms of Bitcoin being cracked, broken, all sorts of things, and controlled, it has those issues. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's how I look at Bitcoin.
So you're not bullish on
Bitcoin? No. I'm bearish on fiat currencies.
And bearish on...
So when I look at the world, I'm just trying to say, then I say, what do I hold?
Right.
Okay, so I hold a little bit of Bitcoin. I have a little bit of Bitcoin, but for me, it's not as attractive as gold. For the reasons you asked me my thoughts, those are my thoughts about Bitcoin. A stable coin is attached to the fiat currency, so it goes down like the fiat currency goes down, and it doesn't give an interest rate. And they're toying around with whether it gives interest rates or not, but there's not a model that I've seen. So far, it's used largely for immediate, quick transactions, and not a storehold of wealth, but immediate, quick transactions. And it may be an efficient way to have that, but it's not my storehold of wealth yet. I don't see the merit of it.
So if I were to build your portfolio array of storehold of wealth, just that component, let's say 5 to 15 goes to gold, how much goes to, you said you have a little Bitcoin, what percentage would that be?
I'm not going to give you what I've got, but I'll give you just general guidelines. It depends on the type of equities. You can't talk about equities as equities because they're too divergent. As we're seeing, for example, now, it's so the Magnificent Seven and AI and tech is such a dominant thing. So in order to think about portfolio construction, you have to think, what type of equities? Where do you hold those equities?
I'm not talking about equity. I'm talking about the assets that you hold with relatively lower risk, like gold and treasury and Bitcoin, which is not you taking a bet on a particular industry, but someplace to park money. What else would you use?
I see. In other words, you're not asking whether there's equities in the portfolio or bonds or what country or anything like that. You're just saying that piece of equities, okay? Then you think about that on that storehold of wealth, you start to think about what that nature of that thing is. There aren't many. Some might say there are gems. Some might say there are works of art. I mean, basically, when they say these things, they're going through criteria, which is, can I move them around? Are they storeholds of wealth that are recognized in different places? They're not like real estate. Real estate is something that's nailed down in a location. It's easy to tax. It's not transferable and so on. So it's, those kinds of things.
Any suggestion of other jobs like the caddy job today? Because
Whatever gets you, two things I'd suggest. First, play the game. If you have an opportunity to play the game, you can play the game. One of the beauties of the markets is it doesn't take a big portfolio to play the game. I had $50. I went into the game, and because the market pieces can be broken up into small sizes, you can almost play the game the same as a huge investor can play the game. Ease of access, you've got that in terms of those. So the game that you get into at an early age will influence you a lot. If I look at like age 12, I'll give you that example. There's some people who say, there's psychologists will say, prior to 12, people learn differently because puberty, at the age of puberty, prior to that, you learn. If you're learning a language or learning a sport or learning things. Anyway, the earlier you start learning, the better it is, the more internal learning that you have. And so play the game, whatever it is. Bill Gates and a lot of the key tech people like to play gaming. They were in gaming and they would hack the games and they would play in the computer, and that'll affect them. So play the game, find a game that you love, and ideally one that makes money. Wow, if you can do those two things together, that's a terrific thing. Play the game and then be around people who are pros at playing the game so you can chat about it. That's a good path. It's very helpful to understand your nature, okay? People have different pulls. Some people are more risk averse. Some people like to pay attention to the big picture. Others will handle risk. Others will pay attention to the details. What is your nature? So I created online, it's free online, a test called Principles U. I recommend you take it. Everybody take it. And they'll look at you, and through answering questions, you'll learn about yourself. And if you also have other people that you have relationships, you'll look at them to help to identify their nature. What is their inclinations? And I think that what really is the journey in life is to try to know about your nature and find it connection to the right path, right? So there are many right paths. For all your audience, I want you to know your nature and try to match it up with what the right path is for you.
For the trader in me, if I were to go back in time and be 18 years old again, if I were to specifically ask you, you model people a lot in the sense that you psychoanalyze them, you have them go through different kind of testing to figure out what psychology is suited to what. What works for a trader, Ray? What makes a trader successful?
What you need to do is be curious to understand mechanics. Okay, what are the cause-effect relationships? What are the things that make the market go up or down so that you can, and whatever it is, whether you're a day trader or whether you're an investor, you have to get into the mechanics and you have to learn the mechanics, right? And through that experience, and if you think and you're curious and you could research, then you can do that. I am creating a platform that anybody can use to help them do that. In other words, there's information. And the way you make decisions is your brain brings in information and it puts it through criteria that determine action, okay? That's how the brain works. That's all the decisions. And so you have to learn what is the criteria and the criteria is cause-effect relationships, because causes happen before effects. And if you understand cause-effect relationships and you understand the causes, you can bet on the effects that it will be happening from that. So you have to be curious and you have to be analytical to understand those cause-effect relationships. You begin a journey, okay? Because if you're just gambling and you don't understand the cause, you won't have an edge. You need to have an edge, Okay. And that is by knowing those cause effect relationships and playing your bet and how to organize your bets so that there's a diversified group of bets, because the power of diversification means that you can greatly reduce risk without reducing returns.
Right. What else do we have? Curiosity, understanding cause-effect relationship, then?
Being addicted to the game and getting the best guidance you can get.
Right. How does one get guidance?
Guidance is all around you. I'm part of the guidance here today. There are courses you can take, okay? Once you have the curiosity, then you will dig and you will learn and you will experiment.
Is that what worked for you, Ray? You still come across as a very curious person. It almost feels like you're trying to answer the question of life that can't be answered in a way.
I'm learning more every day.
Right.
And I can't answer it all, understand it all, but I understand a lot more and I get a kick out of it. You know, Albert Einstein supposedly on his deathbed was still trying to figure out problems. I can imagine me doing that because I love the problems and like to learn, you know. So yes, I have that addiction to learning. And then one of the great things about this game is you bet on it and you get a score. So you can measure my performance down to 3 decimal places and so on. Yeah.
Has this taken a lot of time, changing world order, the research, the amount of effort that
Yes, but it's a passion.
Right. What do you hope to achieve at the other end?
For me now, my main thing is, can I pass it along? I've got a journey and I learn and I love it and all of that. But so it's still a passion. But what I'm really also trying to do as I approach this stage in life is to pass it along. I think there are 3 stages. For me, there are 3 stages in life. There's the first stage where you're dependent on others and you're learning. You go to school, you're not really doing it, you're just learning, right? And you have that dependency. Second stage is you begin the second phase of life. Very different stage is you're working and you're trying to be successful and others become dependent on you. And in that phase, you're dealing with the real world in terms of being able to do it. It's no longer academic. And then you have your career. And I started Bridgewater, largest hedge fund in the world. I started the 2-bedroom apartment. I ran it for 50 years and then I passed it along. Okay, wow, what a great journey. And I learned a lot. Okay, but now I'm at a phase in my life where what I want to do, I'm in the transition to my third phase. And in this transition, I think that there's an instinctual desire to pass along what you've learned, to mentor. Why am I doing your show? Okay, because I have that desire. So that's what's important.
You've spoken about karma and meditation, and does that play a role in your investor career? It makes you a better investor?
These are dominant things. Meditation has been the biggest source of success that I have. It's given me an equanimity. It's given me, when you transcend, I do transcendental meditation. Listen, when you transcend, you're going into your subconscious. And as you go into your subconscious, it helps align your subconscious with your conscious. It brings back a creativity. Bring back a flow, because like creativity, if you go take a hot shower and you're relaxed and so on, ideas can come to you much better perhaps than if you try to muscle them out. So meditation has played an important role. And then karma, I believe in the reality is that by people mutually helping each other, and not just people, but operating in a way that's also helpful to nature and the world, that there is this greater good. And that what happens is it's very functional, because little things that won't take much for me to help somebody else can make a life difference to them. And then they, when they do something, whether it's to me or whether others, you might create an environment like that, you create a better environment. So not only is it practical, it also has the effect of creating this wonderful environment. You look at studies of history, and you find in studies of history, what brings about happiness and health. Past a certain amount of money, of basic subsistence life, there's no correlation between the amount of money you have and the amount of happiness you have. The greatest source of happiness, across societies is community. If you have a good community, and that's a source of helping it and well-being. So I think that these are laws of nature, and they're just reality when I look at them that way. So yes, your question was, does meditation and karma play a role? It plays a role in everything, yeah.